Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today and joining Northbeam's 2024 Partner Agency Spotlight. I'm Luca Tarmina. I am the Senior Agency Partner Manager here at Northbeam. I'm going to be your host today. I am so psyched about today because today it's all about the agencies. You know, all of us, we're living and breathing in the brands world, but we don't often take the time to give the shout out to those that are the lifeblood of this industry, those that are taking on all the hard, dirty work and are just relentlessly measured by scaling performance KPIs. So thank you so much. Also, to be able to join a webinar in this time of year with the holiday right around the corner, I really appreciate this. We do have an elite collection of guests on this webinar that I'm super excited to dive in. Before we dive into the data and do everything, I'd like to introduce the team. So to start things off, I'm going to introduce my right-hand man, Zach Sherritt. He's our senior tech partner manager here at Northbeam. We also have Caitlin from Rainfactory, Nahal from AdPros, Brendan from Natura Labs, Christina from Bamboo, and AR from Block and Tam. So thank you all so much for joining. On today's call, we're going to go over a couple things. We're going to start off highlighting Northbeam, some of the data that we're seeing, the vertical performance that we've seen in 2024, and a little bit about the vision of Northbeam. Then from there, we are going to be asking our esteemed panelists a few questions about what's kind of really impacting them in the industry today. And then we will open up the end to the Q&A for anybody that has any questions, either for the Northbeam team or any of our amazing agency partners. So to start things off, I'm going to pass it over to Zach to go over Northbeam. Zach, take it away.
Thanks so much, Luca, and thanks everyone for joining. Like he said, I lead our tech partnership program, so I'm pretty focused on working with our agency partners, but really on a lot of our new platform integration partners. A lot of you already know what we do here at Northbeam, but just for a little bit of a summary on what we've been working on. As many of you know, our bread and butter has been multi-touch attribution for the last several years. About a year ago, we also launched our MMM offering, and then most recently, that's very exciting, we've launched Northbeam Apex, which is actually live with Meta today for our enterprise customers. But this is how we're feeding attributional credit back into Meta's ad algorithm and seeing great results in having Meta actually optimize based on Northbeam data instead of their own data. So you can see that here as well, but it's been very exciting, and we've been rolling this out or are rolling this out with several new partners pretty soon here. So stay tuned on that specifically. In terms of a year in review, I wanted to pull some high-level metrics of what we're seeing using Northbeam data across the industry. So as you can see broadly, we see a slight share of wallet decrease across many of the main platforms. Overall, compared to year-to-date metrics from 2023 versus 2024, we're actually seeing higher ROAS on several of these channels. However, we are seeing a decrease in share of wallet, ever so slightly for Meta, and then more significantly for a couple of these other platforms. We are seeing higher overall ROAS across the board. However, ROAS is not always the best metric, so I also split this out by industry, by their CAC. So this is a blended CAC, so a blended CPA number that we're seeing. So fashion accessories, slightly higher CAC, but a lot of these industries are actually seeing a slightly lower CAC compared to last year's results. So pretty exciting stuff, and we'll be excited to share more of this with the revamp of our media buyer newsletter. So with that being said, actually one other thing that I wanted to highlight is some emerging platforms. So from an integration standpoint, as well as where we're seeing our clients spend money more this year, two exciting new platforms that are getting a lot of love recently are both AppLovin, which is a closed private beta, as well as Snapchat. We're seeing great success with a lot of our clients doubling year-over-year spend. Some clients even 10xing their year-over-year spend on both of these platforms, and a lot of very exciting stuff coming with both of these from a view through and clicks plus views model standpoint. With that being said, I want to pass it back over to you, Luca.
Yeah, I am absolutely loving what we're seeing out of AppLovin. That is one of the platforms that I am all in for 2025. All right, so let's kick things off with some questions. Let's get the specialists that we have on the call involved in the conversation. We're going to start off with Caitlin from Rainfactory. So the first question that we have to our panelists, and feel free to make it conversational, everybody. Feel free to build in on this question. But as we head into 2025, how are each of you thinking about channel diversification for your clients? And are there any channels that you might surprise you in terms of the opportunity of growth?
Yeah, thank you, Luca.
Yeah.
And of course, like this is a conversation, so happy to be the first to take the plunge. But Rainfactory, we're a full service digital marketing agency. We specialize in new technology products. All of these are clients. You can marvel, or at least maybe if my screen is this small, you can like pinch to zoom. Um, but we really do take a look at how to help customers, help our clients find their customers for the first time. So as we look to channel diversification, we're really often asked, okay, well, what if we integrate this platform or this platform or this platform? But really, we take a very strategic approach. We want to prioritize the core platforms like Meta and Google and selectively test emerging platforms like AppLovin when they have credits and strategic investments from the actual platforms themselves available. So whenever they have testing credits or white glove support, we absolutely want to take advantage of those trends. I remember when Instagram shops first opened, they were starting to give discounts on when you activated that, or even TikTok shop, they were starting to invest in some platform credits as well. And we've seen some real success in really just making sure that you have your core taken care of, especially with our client Omnilux. Omnilux is this glowy face mask company. Kim Kardashian has one. So we grew them from zero brand recognition, nothing in the market, to multi eight figures, primarily using the main two platforms, Meta and Google. Yes, we did test Snap, TikTok, Pinterest, CTV, and influencer marketing. Northbeam was a really critical part of that because these price points are like $400, and the shoppers are so savvy that they really just wait for a sale period and then they like buy. So we really want that multi-touch attribution and that increased look back window to be able to understand what platforms are truly driving the conversions. Is it the hardcore Pinteresters? Is it the people who are coming in off of TikTok? Are they signing on email? Are they converting from email to purchase? We obsessed over all of these elements. And I'll give you an insider tip that platform indicators don't actually translate to conversions. Some early testing, and again, this is just one case study. Older audiences, they're on TikTok, and the platforms like TikTok and Snap, they didn't really test very well. So, but they had really good shallow metrics and shallow indicators. A lot of clicks, really cheap, really easy to get the traffic coming in. But with Northbeam, we're able to see that longer term window. Now, the successful one that we did test into that I'm really excited about going into fourth quarter and 2025 is using influencer marketing, both in channel, in platform, and off channel. One of the top conversions, especially for a highly considered audience like the customers from Omnilux, they really need the people there to give them that confidence and to talk about it. So they found some key influencer partnerships that had blogs, YouTube channels, and Instagram presence that we were able to, again, working with the Northbeam team, like custom code all of these different channels and actually lump them together to measure that in the customer lifecycle. So that was the most surprising element for me,
Yeah.
and where I see that opportunity for growth.
Yeah, being an early adopter to like a platform innovation when they launch something new, it really can be an absolute force multiplier because those platforms are so incentivized to make that program work. And those that are willing to kind of take a risk and sort of tussle with that new opportunity can really benefit a whole lot. Nahal, what are your thoughts on channel diversification?
Yeah, for us, we just got access to Apple News for one of our clients when it comes to those opportunities where it's like, great, there's not that much competition. There's a clear opportunity. Let's see if there's an actual lift that comes from that that's meaningful. But, most of our clients, I think diversification is a trap. Usually when they're at like sub 300,000 a month in spend, the answer is focus. And it sounds cheesy. It's not really like exciting, but the answer is not to have 10, 12 different offers running at the same time. All of our clients who've spent over $1 million a month usually have one core offer that allows them to scale that much. And so the conversations we have are more so how do we max out, similar to Caitlin, of like what happens on Meta, what happens on Google, YouTube, how do we max those out? And then what we try to do is we set a benchmark of like, all right, when we hit 500K a month or when we hit $1 million a month, whatever that number is, then we will add additional channels because usually there's so much friction to get new channels up, not only like setup, but also like making sure that the creative is right for that platform, how we're optimizing. And so usually ends up being a massive distraction. And so we have a situation right now with like a $25 million client that's coming on to Northbeam. And for them, they have US and UK, and UK is not the main opportunity for them. They do have 12 offers live right now on Meta. And so we're taking that down to 3, and then we're taking that down to 1. And so that we found out their break-even period. We found out exactly how profitable they are over a 3-year LTV. And now it's just executing that plan. With that said, once clients hit a specific spend level, we are exploring AppLovin. We are big on Taboola and native ads, and we haven't rolled out the Snap yet, but right now AppLovin and native are the priorities.
Yeah. Yeah. Always better to scale what is built properly than to try to scale something that is not. Brendan, I want to tag you in on this question as a YouTube ninja, channel diversification. How are you looking at that?
Kind of similar to how Nihil mentioned it, but our focus is really on taking offers that are already proven. We don't really have a specific like spend threshold, but most of them, $250,000 a month on Facebook at that target ROAS. We don't really, depending on the product, we don't really work with clients that are not, first order profitable because it doesn't really make sense. However, with Northbeam, a lot of the subscription and supplement brands that you see on Facebook, there's a lot of chatter about them not being first order profitable by design, which is really cool because then we can take that and bring it into Northbeam. And if they've already got their proven funnel and their proven creative that's working on Facebook, what we do is give a lot of creative strategy to tweak it and turn it to YouTube creative. And then we can look at that 1-day views and 1-day clicks, look back window on Northbeam and really turbocharge the amount of spend that they're able to put out from Facebook on YouTube. And then for the brands that are not subscription based, that are not really running at a loss on that first order, it's quite easy to take their proven offers right from Facebook and put it on YouTube just with some creative tweaks and say, hey, look, we're not getting anywhere near that ROAS that you're getting on Facebook, but we can show you the whole funnel is balancing out to those metrics that you need to hit.
Yeah, that's such a view heavy channel. I feel like it's often overlooked, but those that make the investment always get what they're looking for out of that channel.
Yeah, and you couldn't really show that prior to Northbeam. So it's been a really interesting kind of like evolution of the YouTube channel.
So what we're here to do. All right, let's take it over to the next question. We are going to dive into measurement and benchmarks. So what benchmarks or KPIs will be essential in your clients that are in the coming year? And how does Northbeam's data layer into that? We are going to start off. Brandon, why don't you kick it off again?
Then you're right into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have like 2 major KPIs that we look for. And again, like I do want to preface this, like as kind of like an agency, when we work with a brand, we don't ever come to them with our KPIs as far as like those financial metrics. We always say, hey, look, it's up to you to tell us what our North Star is, but we need one North Star. And we really run traffic based on an if-then statement. So if our metrics are within line, then we scale. And we literally just scale as hard as we possibly can, as long as we're in line with those metrics. Sometimes, clients come to us and they don't really know what those metrics are. A lot of the time, like I was talking about earlier, they have those 1-day views and that 1-day clicks plus views metric established on Facebook, and now bring it over to YouTube. But, those metrics are going to be fundamentally different. So a lot of times, we'll take kind of like that Facebook baseline, run it for a month, and then understand, okay, like how does this channel correlate with other channels to get that. But generally up to this point, we're usually only operating on 2 metrics. One of them is 1-day click plus views ROAS, and then some clients, the subscription-based clients, will add in the 1-day clicks plus views ROAS for first-time visitors. And as long as our metrics are within those metrics, then we are able to scale. So it's kind of a interesting approach.
Yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense. How about the Rainfactory team? How are you looking at this?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting to hear Brendan's take on it. I can tell you do a lot of like LTV calculations and subscription businesses. For us, because we have such a specialization in, high tech product sales, we really want to tailor all of the benchmarks that people are seeing, especially when you have the temptation to Google averages and look at totals across everywhere on the internet. It's really important to understand how to benchmark yourself within your product category. So Northbeam, I mean, Zach had the initial numbers by industry to make sure that you're paying attention to that. Or if you have a subscription to the media buyer newsletter. Sorry, I'm just like only plugging Northbeam, but it's really valuable information, especially because you can break it out by industry, and make sure that you understand how to contextualize it according to your business model. So, a key metric for growth that we're looking at, especially one of our top spending clients, is One Wheel, one of the like self-balancing
I
electric
love that
ones.
brand.
Yeah. So it's really tricky too, because you're essentially like selling, an investment, like a car replacement. So the consideration window is super long, like 6 months. So we always close out Black Friday wishing that we had spent more in April and May, when people are like learning and the sun is out and it's really warm and summer's here. So we really track things like first time customer revenue, and really double down on what are the key products that are your gateway board. And then use some of the other channels, especially retention, to be able to kind of get them hooked on the brand, really invested, and then coming back for more boards, more gear, that type of stuff.
Yeah. As a One Wheel customer, I recommend everybody with your purchase buy wrist guards. Very, very important. This is a critical topic, so I want to stick with it a little more. Let's bring in the Bamboo team into the equation. Measurements and benchmarks. How are we looking at that, Christina?
Thanks, Luca. And I definitely do want to build up on Caitlin's point about any business level data, because at Bamboo, we believe in all the performance marketing efforts that could drive reliable and sustainable business growth. So for measurement, we use a more of a triangulated measurement approach across platform performance, program performance, and business health, which inside we call it the efficient growth triangle. This framework does allow us to examine the channel metrics, cross-channel attribution, and overall business impact. This is also where Northbeam becomes particularly valuable, especially at the program level, because we have seen very common cases where channel metrics improve, but business growth stays flat. Northbeam help us spot those scenarios, flagging potential incrementality issues we might otherwise miss. But looking ahead for next year, we will be focusing on metrics beyond just platform metrics. For example, for e-commerce clients, we'll be looking at, but not limited to, business level CAC, like Caitlin mentioned, new customer revenue, also LTV growth. And for some of our subscription clients, we'll also be looking at projected LTV, projected margin, and overall churn rate. All of these KPIs layered with, of course, Northbeam attribution data. We will actually get that comprehensive view of both the immediate paid media performance, but also the long-term business health data.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's bring in Kevin from Black and Tim. Kevin, anything that we can expand upon on this?
Hey, I'm here with Kevin. I'm going to have him take our next question.
Sorry.
No worries. At Black and Tam, as a performance agency focused in the luxury retail space, we are also pretty focused day to day on that bottom line ROAS and revenue, both for the channel and also site-wide for all of our clients. So heading into the next year, we're also keeping our eye on that first-time revenue and first-time visits, as we really try and push our clients towards the upper funnel after peak holiday season kind of fatigues those returning user pools. So we use Northbeam's MTA model every day to make optimizations across campaign, ad group, and ad levels. But as our clients focus on business level expansion, we're also working with Northbeam's MMM to prioritize spend towards higher funnel channels, specifically social. So no matter what attribution we choose with the MTA, lower funnel channels like branded search will always look like a shinier penny, but using the MMM to test and scale social with a more holistic incremental approach has really served our longer term goals.
Yeah, Yeah, and something that we're super excited about at Northbeam. I got a sneak peek to this, but we have an expansion coming around the corner that has a lot to do with benchmarking, and we're super excited about it. I can't wait for you guys to give it a spin. All right, let's pivot the conversation to what marketing is usually all about: creative strategy. So, with creative remaining as a top priority for high converting campaigns, what creative trends do you see dominating in 2025? And what insights can you share about balancing creativity with performance metrics? We're going to go back to Christina from the Bamboo team to kick this off.
Thanks, Luca. I'm very excited about the creative conversation. Of course, looking ahead to next year, we're already seeing several key trends reshaping the creative strategy. But first of all, creative now is kind of responsible for 50 to 70% of a campaign's ROI. So whatever we're discussing right now really means a more solid foundation to any successful campaigns. But in general, I think native content and creative diversification will remain fundamental next year. But I can see them evolving in three major ways. First thing is platform are integrating more AI capabilities. Think Meta's Advantage Plus creative tools, TikTok Symphony for enhancement. We're also seeing more AI enhanced creative tools like Midjourney, or for example, like icon.me for like lip syncing, etc. Second point I'm seeing is UGC is evolving more. It's kind of maturing beyond basic engagement metrics into performance-driven content while maintaining that authentic feel. I think also platform-specific creatives becoming more crucial, whether it's like catering your content for Pinterest or for Reddit's community. And lastly, my point is around cross-platform storytelling, which is becoming even more sophisticated. Brands are definitely developing more cohesive native narratives that adapt seamlessly across platform while also aligning with the user journey. So my one sentence recommendation to kind of balance creativity with performance will be focusing on maintaining that crucial native feel and use the funnel aware messaging to always deliver the right content to the right user at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah, and Brendan, piggybacking off of Christina's point about platform-specific creatives, usually when we think about that, we think of YouTube as extremely different compared to the rest of the platforms. How are you approaching creative strategy today?
Yeah, good question. It's ever evolving, I think, as we all know that. But one of the things I'm really seeing over the last couple of years of, really focusing on YouTube kind of goes into what I was talking about earlier with, we don't necessarily need to test an offer on YouTube, right? If the offer is proven on cold traffic, meaning you can scale on Facebook or another platform, we know the offer is proven. Now we just got to figure out how to crack it. And the brands that I'm seeing have the most success over and over and over again are founder-led brands or brands that have a spokesperson. We saw the evolution of Dr. Squatch, all the Harmon Brothers companies that have kind of evolved native over the last couple of years. I think that's going to be transitioning a lot more into YouTube as it becomes more powerful. With founder-led guys, like, they have a studio in their office where they can sit down, they can film, they can go out with their iPhones and they can film content, because it puts brands at a place where they have more authentic communication with their customers, but they're also able to be creators and they're able to be to create communities based on the people who are building the brands. And I think some of the most successful brands to date on YouTube have all been founder-led and or spokesperson-led. And as YouTube becomes more accessible to a lot of people, with Northbeam being able to see these metrics and these view-through metrics and stuff, a lot of these clients that are able to sit down and really have a creative strategy that evolves from the top down, or just having success, that the brands that have to go out and get all these, these high-end productions produced, they just can't compete. The iPhone content, vertical for YouTube Shorts, or the horizontal stuff that's film very low budget is outperforming, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 hero videos. So it's been really interesting to see. And I think it's going to keep evolving towards creator-driven brands in the future.
Yeah, there's a Scorsese and a DiCaprio inside of all of us. Block and Tam, you guys want to build on this? What creative trends do you see dominating in 2025?
For us, from our perspective, our agency is heavily focused on working on the luxury side. So there's a complete flip that we see on our part. With the AI advent, it's definitely had a paradigm shift in how we have to think about our creatives for our clients. We work with a lot of legacy brands that are very much still focused on their core executions that in certain ways do create a challenge with how we have to approach our campaigns nowadays, with the Advantage Plus campaigns being the black box method of how we have to push our conversion tactics and how we have to push our creatives to the right people. A lot of times those create some some uphill battles at times where their methods don't necessarily align with best practices for Meta. But with us, that has given us opportunities for us to expand our creative department at the company. We've been able to help guide our clients by incrementally bringing in different tests that work within the platform. So things like text overlays may have been a problem in the past, but now we've been able to do incrementality testing with baby steps by doing things like logo versus no logo, value proposition versus no value proposition. And we've been able to better quantify how those incremental gains are coming back from testing out these different overlays. So what that actually has led to us from these past couple of months of the advantage plus boom, we've been able to see a lot of our clients find the quantity behind doing this type of testing, and then also layer on their elements of branding. So this has allowed them to take a lot more bigger swings in the platform by adding on their own spark to it, while still feeding into the algorithm, using creative as the targeting and falling into a lot of the requirements that are needed in order to scale on the platforms nowadays. So from what I see going on in the future, I think brands are going to take on even bigger swings going forward. They're going to take bigger risks. They're going to take bigger chances, knowing that it is necessary for you have to take these bigger chances with creatives. You have to make bigger swings. You have to do more in the platform to get more out of it. So I definitely see that shift happening across the board, and it's even hitting all of these legacy brands too that we have the pleasure to work with.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I always said that an indicator of what makes a strong agency partner is knowing and seeing that they are A/B testing nuanced details on the creatives. That's like a red flag for me when I speak to agencies that are just throwing something up versus really trying to understand how to optimize this. Now, Hall, we spoke a lot about this. You got anything to build on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's like two fundamental things that we're challenging how we operate as an agency for creatives, and then there's an AI component. So the first one is that we were optimizing for a 25% win rate for a concept. So if we have an idea, we have four variations. When we launch that idea with those four variations, we want 25% of them to win. And so we started hitting those, but the issue was that wasn't leading to a big winner. And so we changed our objective, and this is something that's going into 2025, which is that we want, especially for a platform like Meta or YouTube, we want one creative to be responsible for 10% of total spend. So if you're spending $1 million a month on Meta, we want one concept to be spending at least 100,000, and we want top three concepts to be spending at least 30 to 33% of the account. Everything else is testing and exploring, whether it's landing pages or different offers or whatever else the distribution is. But we found when accounts have this about 10% performance on one creative, a lot of the account has stability, and our clients see that business-wide lift. And so that's one component. The second part of what we're doing is we're adding way more data into our creative operations. So if you look at how most of us do advertising, this is something that we've been stuck in for a very long time. We got like some of our customer data in terms of surveys or what's going on in the marketplace, but we weren't doing enough customer level enhancements and enrichments to see exactly who they are, and then doing market data to get an idea of like who actually exists from an avatar level in the marketplace. So those are two different data points that we're using to better streamline our messaging, where it's data backed instead of guesses or assumptions. And so that has been further changing our operations. And then from an AI standpoint, we're pretty bullish on fame flow in terms of AI influencers and ARC ads for the AI creator side.
Wow. Well, I really love that breakdown of how you look at the budget spend across creatives. Now, I'm going to keep you in the hot seat as we transition into the acquisition strategy. So, with acquisition costs on the rise, what are some of the effective strategies you've seen to manage CAC and boost acquisition in a sustainable way?
Yeah, I think this has been a big challenge post like COVID slump, right? Like everyone was riding high for a few years, and then we all got hit relatively, and it's been a challenge. And so what we've seen is just way more sophistication of growth teams. This happened to us too. We're getting access to P&Ls, and we're looking at profitability at a very uncomfortable level for some founders, because they have to reveal everything, and they don't want us to renegotiate, or they don't feel comfortable comfortable because we know more than some of their in-house employees. And so that has been really interesting, but that's built on trust. And so some of the conversations we're having on like first order profitability, what the actual break-even periods are, what lifetime value is in 3 years, depending on the business model, those kind of things are like most media buyers didn't really talk about that. Most growth teams weren't at that level of sophistication. And now you don't have an option. You must figure out how to manage those metrics and optimize for them correctly. And just with dealing with higher CACs, like I think part of the challenge of chasing CPMs or chasing low cost per clicks, it's a real challenge because you have to get your CACs in the volume that you want. But what this is really leading to is the death of low AOV, low LTV offers that just the marketplace can't manage. And so, unfortunately, that is going to hurt a lot of different types of businesses. They're going to have to find other forms of methods of acquisition, but that just won't really happen. And what we're also seeing is expansion outside of US for the businesses that are more mature because they're seeing way more success in Europe or Australia and Canada.
Yeah. Drilling down, focusing on that which yields high LTV is something that a lot of agencies that I speak to find to be kind of this sort of insurmountable task to really accomplish. Northbeam has a really easy way of digesting this, where you can actually look at the LTV by different cohorts. What's the lifetime value of those that start off with a particular product or a particular discount code or a particular time period or region? Makes a lot of sense. Christina from Bamboo, any thoughts on this?
Yes, I really love that you bring up that cohorts analysis by product because that is one of my top recommendation. But let me just go back a little bit. I want to just break down the question because whenever we're talking about CAC at Bamboo, we want to kind of reframe how we think about it because we never look at it in isolation. We need to consider it alongside other metrics like contribution margin impact or the overall LTV to CAC ratio, or what people are confusing between business level CAC or platform CAC. But going back to my first recommendation, which is on product optimization, which often is overlooked, but is incredibly powerful if you dive a little bit deeper into it. Because at Bamboo, we have seen significant success with some of our premium brands by us running the cohort analysis to identify which first purchase products drive higher LTV and retention across new customer post acquisition. And then we will focus our paid media efforts on those high performing products cohorts for new customer acquisition tactics. So when we see brands leading with their iconic products for the initial acquisition, we typically will see higher LTV and retention rates and healthier LTV to CAC ratio, leaving much more stretch room for them, even when their CAC is a lot higher. And we have been seeing success with LTV improvements within the first 3 months of implementing this type of strategy shifts. So with the feature on Northbeam, I could see it as a very easy to pivot strategy whenever they get a deeper dive, understanding how their product is driving their overall customer retention behavior. And my second recommendation will be just revisit your media incrementality for you to spot anything that can give you some low-hanging fruits to improve CAC. We have seen some very common issues like brands are overspending on branded search. They're not having the greatest audience suppression, so their investment not be truly incremental, and their overall channel mix may not be truly incremental as well. The easy solution is to go into measurement partners like Northbeam to find out what your true new customer acquisition might look like. They could also just like strategically increase their upper and mid funnel activities, diversify their channel mix a little bit more, and also do very regular incrementality checks using this partner tools to make sure they're overall visiting this and not setting and forgetting.
Wow, you guys are bringing the heat on this one. I think a lot of people in this chat are going to be having some harsh conversations with their agency reps after this one. Brendan, Natura Labs, how are we looking at this?
Sorry, I got distracted. Repeat the question.
Yeah, acquisition strategy. With acquisition costs on the rise, what are some of the effective strategies you've seen to manage CAC and boost acquisition in a sustainable way?
Yeah, it's a great question. We work with different style brands. I think a lot of the agencies work with in here, a lot of the brands we work with are what I kind of refer to as more affiliate style brands. So they have, specific offers. They're not really focused on expanding to a various array of different, products and stuff. They literally have their acquisition costs, and our job is to hit those acquisition costs. So as I've said, we focus exclusively on the content side. Our job is exclusively running content on YouTube, and we have to get that acquisition cost, whether it's a CPA, whether it's a ROAS, whatever it is. We're not too focused on the LTV metrics or those other type of metrics. Our job is literally just to say, hey, look, here's the type of creative that we see working for brands A, B, and C. Now, here are the ideas that we think we can add to your brand if you go and produce this content, taking from little bits of other brands that are scaling, and they make the content and we run traffic to it. And if it works, it works. We scale. If it doesn't, then we kill that and move on to a totally different creative. So the acquisition costs, they're rising across the board, but I think that's just the nature of the game we're in. And I think that's the nature of why a lot of brands are going to be transitioning to subscription models, because the brands that are running subscription models and they have those lower, break-even ROASs, they can outspend any other brand because they're built for the evolution of the digital space. But that doesn't, take away from our focus on the creative. And as someone said earlier in this call, they think, the creative is responsible for 50 to 70% of the campaign. I would actually dare to say the creative is responsible for 90 to 95% of it, for the reason I said earlier, is that once the offer is proven on cold traffic, we know there's demand for it, or we know there's people that are going to purchase it. Our job is to find creative that can actually convert at scale and drive traffic at scale. And saying, costs are rising. That's true, but that's the nature of everything. So it's, it is the nature of the game that we play. Sorry for missing that question. I wasn't prepared for that one.
No worries at all. No worries at all. At the end of the day, marketing is about resonating with humans, and creatives is how we do that. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right. For the final question, I want to kick things off with Caitlin from Rainfactory. So what are some of the big goals you have for 2025 in terms of scaling brands and success? Any North Stars that are guiding your growth strategy?
Yeah, look, I'm actually taking notes where I love all of the inspiration that we're getting here today. But if anybody gets to know me, you might know that I'm super obsessed with board games. I'll just camera pan to board game collection here.
Okay.
I love building the systems where I love the Euro games, where you build the system and that system, you just continue to run it and execute it while you're building the next system, and you build the next system. So, but the North Star that guides all of this system building, Rainfactory, we make it rain. But we want to partner with brands that are customer obsessed. At full stop. Anything that, anything from what Brendan is saying, using customer generated content, or being the voice of the customer, or having an avatar or a spokesperson that is the voice of the customer, getting in front of and converting more customers. Those are the types of brands that I am prioritizing and being very selective about bringing to our company this year. One of the biggest brands that is the source of this inspiration is a company called Next Playground. And if you haven't, just take a minute to Google it. They just launched last year. We just got them off the ground last year, but they've been able to build the community, get the community to generate content, get the update their product because the community didn't like different elements of the platform. One soccer game was throwing Gatorades, and the parents wanted it to throw waters because they wanted to, not have sugary drinks. Whatever it is, nothing was too small for them to over-the-air updates for their product in near real time. And the CEO and founder is in that customer group, Facebook group, responding and answering and engaging. So the brands that think differently, those are the ones that are our North Star. So Next Playground, they went from 0 to 7 figures in 6 months by really using that value wedge and the customer obsession to make a big name for themselves in a very crowded market, gaming consoles, with a lot of established players that are just completely dominating it. So we're really focused on the holistic approach. I mean, I've got my eye on retention, email and SMS, and kind of doing some of that channel expansion as well. But overall, that big through line, anything that want to build those one-to-one relationships with their customers is my North Star for 2025.
Yeah. So what you're saying is Rainfactory can promise to scale you from 0 to 7 figures in 6 months, right?
No pressure.
If only.
No, we make no guarantees.
Yeah.
We help people find markets, and like Nehal said, like that might not even just be the US, right? Next is in South Africa and Europe, and they've just launched in Target. Like there's a whole bunch of different ways. Of course, US is a giant market, but yeah, it's a global playground.
Yeah. Boom, boom. Nahal, I know AdPros is cooking up something for 2025. What do you got?
Yeah, a bunch. I think the start of it is like what happens to the market in terms of how much money people make and how much discretionary income that they have. Like to me, that is a fundamental component of how people buy. And I'm very curious because that dictates a lot of like our clients' performance and what we can expect. For us, there's a lot of different things we're doing. One of the most important things right now is how do we align incentives between like brands, our agency as a whole, and different team members. That's very important because each person has such an important role. But our focus is we want to really get out of activity-based media buying and creatives because they're so easy to fall into that. And thanks to Northbeam as well, we're just able to see objectively how we're doing and are with looking at what actually matters. We want to make sure that what the client wants from a top line, bottom line standpoint is connected to our agency as a whole and then the individual team members. And the way that we're doing that is like aligning incentives like sounds like super corporate, but at the end of the day, it's like, what is the comp structure of our team? What is our comp structure as an agency? And then does that actually lead to the end brand being more profitable? And so if not, then there's misalignment. There's going to be crazy amount of friction. That's a huge deal for us. Another thing that we're really focusing on is what is the highest LTV gross profit customer that we have? How do we understand who that person is, especially with some of our brands who are more sophisticated? They're looking at 3-year LTVs or longer, and they want to optimize towards that. And so, what is unique about them? What are characteristics about them demographically, psychographically that we can isolate so that even if their CPA is a little bit higher upfront, are we able to actually do that correctly and predict and model their potential like future LTV? So that is a big deal. We want to do channel maximization, then diversification, just to keep ourselves honest. And a big component is how do we question our workflow and integrate AI to it, not to fire people, but to get more out of everyone on our team. Because the thing that we're really emphasizing is like the goal is not to make the team smaller. The goal is for each of you guys to add more value so everyone's AI enabled instead of getting replaced by AI. So that's more so our perspective on what's about to come.
Yeah, I think that summarizes it up just right. Guys, thank you so much for just bringing so much value to this. I think this went better than expected. Looking at Drew's message, I think we've exceeded the time that was allocated to this. So I don't think we're going to be able to dive into the Q&A today, but I'm sure a lot of the attendees have a lot of questions for the panelists. So any question that you have, either for the Northbeamers or any of the amazing agency panelists that we have, feel free to shoot those questions directly to us, and we would be happy to make the introduction. So thank you all so much for taking the time out of your busy day to join this webinar. It won't be the last. We really appreciate all the insights that you shared today. And most of all, best of luck during the holidays. Happy scaling. Go get it. And we'll reconnect in Q1. Thank you so much, everybody.